Hey, all you beacons of light, how's it going out there? This is Adrienne Lopez, the Integrative Awareness Coach, and I'm just stopping by to give you a preview of week 4, Creating Your Inner Temple, as well as doing a quick recap on weeks 1 through 3. For those of you that just might be joining me for the first time, welcome. And for those of you that aren't sure what an Integrative Awareness Coach does, I pretty much help people, support people, face the truth of who they are. And I offer a easy to remember 3-part practice, which is made out of what I call the 3 A's, which is attuning to your authentic energy. Number 2, aligning to your true purpose. And number 3, ascending outworn or old beliefs that are no longer serving you. And while that kind of oversimplifies it, it's a real great structure to hang the whole process on. Anyhow, if you're interested in finding more about my services, you can check out my website, which is www.mindheartspace.com, and I could schedule a 15-minute chat with you and find out if there's any way that I can be of service and support you through things that you're going through in your life and the things that you're really excited about creating for yourself. So with that being said, I just want to remind you that for those that have been participating, or maybe those that haven't, week 1 through 3 of this 11-week free meditation series is posted on my Facebook page as well as my YouTube channel. So if you missed it, you're covered. You can go back and you can participate in the first 3 weeks. I suggest doing the meditations in a linear model, mostly because they kind of build on each other, and it's a really good way to get a sense of momentum through the process. So before I go through the recap of weeks 1 and 2, actually, as I go through the recap, I wanted to give a little bit more context of the type of meditation that I've been leading people through and why. So you have a greater sense of purpose, like, how does this tool align with the purpose kind of thing. So in the first week, we looked at discovering our inner temple, our inner sanctuary. And I invited you to explore that and also invite in your highest self, the most wisest part of yourself, and make that connection. And then in week 2, we looked at clearing our energy bodies, because our awareness is not just some, mental or abstract concept out there. It's actually inhabited in our bodies. In our bodies at a cellular level, we store memory and information and emotion. And so I took you through a process of clearing out the 7 chakras or energy centers, places where we may have forgotten old beliefs or ideas or contracts or agreements that we have about how we get to be in the world. And so this was a process of clearing out the temple of any residual energy that might not be in the service of us in uncovering and stepping into our highest expression of who we are, our highest potential. And then in week 3, I actually took you through what was called healing through self-compassion. And this was a process of having compassion for ourselves and forgiveness for ourselves as well as others. So a lot of times, what really stops us is our self-criticism and our inability to forgive ourselves for perceived ways of being, or what we think we've done wrong, or how, we might imagine that we're just not good enough, right? So it was a practice in self-compassion. And so what I wanted to clarify is, before I go into that, I just want to let you know that this week on Sunday at 12 Pacific Standard Time. I'll be posting our fourth week of Creating Your Inner Temple, which will be based on the theme of acceptance, self-acceptance. So on the other side of self-acceptance is judgment, right? So a lot of these, or I should say an aspect of living in duality, is things always have two sides. So on the back side of self-acceptance is self-judgment. And so through this process, we're looking at how we can flip it, how we can flip the script, and revisiting these different aspects of our awareness that we, that are sometimes, most of the time, not sometimes, all the time, for the most part, for us, because we're so directed out into the physical world, because that's where we live, right? It's about turning our attention to another aspect of ourselves. We are like twins, should I say. We have a physical body, we live in the physical world, but we also have a twin aspect to that. We also have a spiritual awareness, a consciousness that is not material. It transcends the material world. And so a lot of times we focus on the materiality of who we are, and we tend to disregard the spiritual aspect of who we are, which is, kind of a huge part of our experience here, So anyhow, we don't want to step over that, right? Anyways, I just, as I wrap this up, I just want to say a couple words about guided meditation and guided journeys and how they're different from other types of meditation. So I have mentioned before that I have been a practicing meditator for the last 20 years. And I've gone through many different types of schools of meditation. I've practiced different types of meditation. And there's a couple things that I have gleaned from my experience is that people, including myself, don't want to do anything that doesn't make them feel better, right? And so there is a self-connection that has to go on. So if I'm doing a meditation that goes against like my inherent sense of well-being, even though people say it's good for me, I'm probably not going to do it because it doesn't feel good. And that this is a little bit different than, like, say I'm meditating and an uncomfortable emotion comes up. It might not feel very good while that emotion comes up, but cleaning it, flushing out those old emotions feels fabulous because they aren't serving me, right? They're old and they're in my way. And so the release of that emotion actually is quite freeing. So I'm not saying that when you go through a meditation, you might not feel comfortable, that you might not feel uncomfortable sometimes. Of course you will, but you need to find a meditation that allows you to sit and witness your experience. I'm sorry. My neighbor keeps slamming their door repeatedly, very loudly. And every time they do it, like, the whole house shakes. I don't know if it's coming through on the video, but it's a bit alarming to me. Anyways, especially when I'm not expecting it in a video, you know what I mean? Anyhow, what was the point? Oh, so I wanted to just clarify how this type of meditation is a little bit different. So in mindfulness meditation, for example, which I am certified in, the idea is to bring your awareness to the present moment by using a sensory object. So that object could be your breath, letting your attention rest on your breath. It could be sound. it could be sensation in your body. It could be a candle, right? So there's lots of objects that your awareness can use as an anchor to bring yourself back to the present moment. So this is in contrast to, like being in the past. That's like what's already happened, or racing to like the imagined future, which hasn't happened yet. So the idea is that through this practice, the mind begins to disidentify with the sensory object because it realizes like the witness can witness any object. So it's not the object, right? Awareness is not the object. Awareness is just awareness, no matter, and it can like put its attention anywhere, right? It doesn't matter what the object is. And through this process, you start. I'm sorry, he's drilling now. So through this process, you begin to strengthen your awareness muscle, and you start to realize that your awareness has nothing to do with the objects. Your awareness is much more expansive than that. And so this is a very powerful practice also. But what happens for empaths, people that are extra sensitive, people that have this ability to intuit other people's emotions, like just naturally. And for those of that people that can do that, they just think everybody else can do that too, And so they don't even stop for a minute to think that what they're doing is somehow unique or special or different than other people. And so I'm sorry, I'm laughing just because of the noise. I don't know if you can hear it, but my apologies if it's disrupting. But anyhow, so when you're an empath, what happens is you take on a lot of other things that have nothing to do with you, and you think that they're you. And so empaths do this with the intention, unconscious intention, to try to heal other people's emotions by taking them on for that person, which is really impossible, right? You can't take on another person's emotions and heal them. It's like a short-term fix. So what happens to the empath is they have a really vague sense of self, because they never actually build one, because it's always their first point of reference is the emotional world of others. And so what happens is, and I'm speaking from experience here as an empath, when you go into something like practicing a very, specific meditation like mindfulness meditation, and you're practicing with an object of awareness, that's not the self. The self is awareness. Sometimes that can be quite challenging because you have to have a self in order to disidentify with it. So what happens for empaths is they never got the opportunity to build a strong container for this self. And this is not the egotistical self that I'm talking about. This is just a sense of owning and being with your own essence and your own spirit. And so this 11 week, I'm saying 12 because somebody asked me, well, why isn't it 12 weeks? And I'm like, because it's 11. I don't know. 11 came to me, so that 11 is what it is. I like 11. So, anyways, the point is that this 11-week process is for people that have this tendency to distribute their energy constantly and be so disconnected from who and what they are in their desire to support others, to heal them, to help alleviate, stress and pain in other people. So this is, when I say creating your inner temple, it's really discovering, your inner world and how vast and, dynamic and how multi-layered it is as an empath, and really bringing your awareness to that treasure of like who you are and the expanse of who you are, and then fully inhabiting it in your body. So empaths also have a habit of being disembodied, mostly for the purpose of, when the consciousness goes out to heal another person, I'm not home, and so, and then of course you carry that pain of others that you pick up with, and you don't want to bring that into your body because it's yucky, right? And so you do your best to stay, disembodied outside of yourself. And so this is a process of cleaning and refining and returning, and we're doing it through the imagination. I imagine myself. How do I imagine myself? And we're using our imagination to discover the truth about who we are. And the imagination is a very powerful tool, and we're learning to reclaim it. Right? A lot of times we lend our imagination out to other people, but we don't use it for ourselves. So before we, have a giving up of who we are, we actually have to figure out who we are to give it up, right? And I don't mean give it up, because this isn't necessarily a giving up process. It's more of a understanding, an unveiling, a realization, an epiphany, a cognition of who you really are and the expansiveness of who you are. So anyways, I'm going to stop it there. And thank you for joining me for this preview review. And I hope you got something of value for yourself today. Again, if you'd like to find out more about my integrative awareness coaching that I offer and the services, you can check out my website, and we can schedule a 15-minute chat and find out how I might be of service and be able to support you in your journey and what you're up to. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye for now.